This is bow hunting pronghorn antelope. But before the moment arrives, there are many tasks and skills that must be addressed. We will accompany veteran bow hunters John Craig and Dick Larkin, who have been hunting antelope together with a bow and arrow for many years. The purpose of this video is to show how these two experienced antelope hunters have developed their blind hunting techniques. Hunting from a blind is not the only technique for antelope hunting, but John and Dick believe it to be the most effective. These are the high plains of Wyoming, vast and seemingly uninhabited, rugged, windswept, and oftentimes inhospitable, where the temperatures soar to 100 degrees in the summer and plunge to 40 below in the winter, where the winds flow across the land like the traffic of its interstate highway, always rushing to get across and not noticing the wealth of life it's passing by. These high plains are home to the pronghorn antelope, a native North American species that has adapted and thrives in this land of contrasts. Indiscriminate hunting at the turn of the century decimated the antelope, and their numbers dwindled to a mere 13,000 animals in the early 1920s. With wise management and money supplied by sportsmen across the country, their numbers have rebounded to about 406,000 on a range that again reaches from the prairies of northern Saskatchewan down to the northern border of Mexico. In the late 60s, it was estimated that there were more antelope in the state of Wyoming than there were people, and Wyoming still has the largest herds of pronghorns. Hunting has now become the only effective means of controlling the pronghorn antelope population, and hunting the pronghorn with a bow and arrow is a challenge worthy of any archer. John Craig is a native of Wyoming and has been hunting pronghorn antelope all his life, and exclusively with a bow and arrow since 1971. John has taken many large bucks, one of which scored 80 points in the Pope and Young archery record book.
Here he comes over the ridge now, that big boy.
During the late summer and early fall, the antelope depend on water holes for their water supply. They will water once or twice a day, depending on how hot it is and how comfortable they feel about approaching the water. The bow hunter takes advantage of this routine by building a blind on a water hole that is the only source of water in a large area. He will hopefully have antelope coming to water from a vast expanse of country, and the chances of getting a big buck are greatly increased because the hunter is going to see more and different antelope as they come and go for water from a wide area. When antelope become dependent on watering at these specific areas, they become very cautious, as they instinctively know they are vulnerable here. Antelope rely on their keen eyesight as their chief means of defense, and when they're watering with their heads down, they are vulnerable. This telescopic eyesight, combined with their legendary speed, makes the antelope a most challenging game animal. One-on-one on the open plains, they're almost impossible to stalk, especially if they've been hunted at all. The common routine at a waterhole is for the incoming antelope to approach cautiously, staring at the water and the surrounding country, looking for anything out of the ordinary. They will oftentimes walk the entire perimeter, carefully watching for any movement. For no apparent reason, they will suddenly bolt. Fawns need to water more than adults, so does with fawns will usually visit a water hole more than single adults. The does are very cautious, as their instincts tell them there is potential danger here. They, however, are usually the first of the herd to approach the water hole. If one animal sees something out of the ordinary and spooks, the entire herd will scatter. After being alarmed, and if they can't identify what the danger is, they will again approach cautiously. Finally, when everything seems all right, they will drink. The old wise bucks many times will wait until the does begin to drink. Then they will move to the center of the herd and start to drink. This is a bad situation for the bow hunter, as he's apt to hit a doe or fawn if he misses the buck. The first task of the hunter is to find an isolated water hole with antelope in the area. John Craig and his son Schuyler have been joined by Dean Davis, who has drawn a permit in this same area and will be hunting antelope with a rifle later in the season. This is a rather unusual situation. These bucks have come into water even though John, Schuyler, and Dean are only about 200 yards away. The reason? It may be it's the first part of August and these bucks haven't been hunted, or it may be that the visitors are in plain sight and don't pose a threat, or possibly the antelope's thirst is greater than their fear. For whatever reason, this group of bucks came right into water in plain sight of the scouting party. For Dean, joining John is a good chance to get more familiar with the country with a person who's hunted here all his life. And also it's a chance to see how a bow hunter goes about selecting a site and building a blind from which to hunt.
Here comes 6 antelope off that skyline where the original big bunch of bucks came.
Yeah, we're getting a good herd of antelope in here to water right now.
Looks like they're coming into the same water hole. I mean, yeah, here we are at midday and they're just turning and coming right in. This is great. This is going to be a pretty easy deal if it stays consistent like this. They're not even spooky is what surprises me.
It works out pretty good.
Yeah. John, I was looking at all this country. As you can see, we can see for miles out here. And you don't see any water, okay? But we know there's more water holes around here. What made you pick this particular one? Prior experience or just a knack for figuring that out, or there's a sign down there that says this is antelope watering hole number 1. What's the deal?
Well, there's a combination of things that I look at when I pick a water hole. First of all, I've hunted this entire area. We've got about 25 square mile area here, and I've hunted it for several years, so I'm familiar with a lot of this territory. However, each year our water conditions change. This year, this pond happens to have a good ample supply of water in it. But one of the things you mentioned that's important to the antelope also, when you said that you can see for miles around here, as you noticed where those antelope came in, they can also see for a large area. They can look that pond over real good.
Right, yeah.
They can see if there's any coyotes around, any bobcats around, what's down there that's liable to get them and their fawns when they come into water. And so an area that antelope can really look over and they walk into slowly and they got several good escape routes is very important to antelope. The other thing we've got here is we've got a large expanse of sagebrush and grass that the antelope could feed in. They've got good places to bed down to get out of the wind. And they can rotate in here. We've got several herds of antelope in this area, and they seem to come and go just like a stopwatch. They know when they're supposed to be at the water hole. And as you notice how they come down the different channels here, they funnel in, but they go out a different direction.
Right.
They never go out the same way they come in, and that's simply a matter that they're going to feed into an area for several hours. Then they'll come back in later this evening, and they'll get another drink of water prior to bedding down for the evening.
Now, I noticed that we when we started this out here at this waterhole, I noticed one herd broke off, went down around the other point and up that other valley. Is there another waterhole up there too?
Yeah, what we've got here is we've got another waterhole just about between a mile and 3/4 from here. What that does is, one thing, it ensures the antelope that no matter what the weather conditions are, between the two waterholes they should have a good ample supply of water.
Okay.
And they'll move back and forth, but the herds kind of separate right now. One part of the herd's using one waterhole and forage, another herd's using another waterhole and forage, so they don't overgraze it. And they seem to be able to get along pretty good that way.
Well, you're going to be in here in another 2-3 weeks or so, and try to take a couple with a bow. And I'm going to turn around and follow you up about the middle of September. A friend of mine from Sheridan, Randy Lindbergh, is going to come down, and he and I are going to give a go at him with the rifle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, my hunting partner, an old-time hunting partner for several years, Dick Larkin from Cheyenne, will be up here. Tomorrow you'll be able to meet him. Be helping us construct some of these blinds.
Okay, good.
And he'll be doing some bow hunting with me. You know, speaking of constructing blinds, it looks like we've got a good area. And what I suggest now is we get back in the vehicle and we work our way on down there and we check it out a little closer and kind of see where we want to place that blind according to where we saw those antelope, and then start looking at constructing that blind. What do you say?
That's fine with me. Let's get it done.
Okay.
The other selected blind site is John's favorite. This is the same place he took the 80-point antelope, and again this year he has scouted some outstanding bucks in the area. It is a slightly smaller waterhole, about 12 miles from the first, and affectionately dubbed Chicken Hole because of the large number of sage grouse, or sage chickens, that also water here. John likes to have an alternative, so as a rule he will build 2 or 3 blinds. That way, if something happens to one blind during the period between blind building and hunting season opening, he still has a blind from which to hunt. With the pond located, the first task is to cut the sagebrush that will be used to cover the blind.
John, you reckon this ought to be enough now?
Well, I think so. We got a pretty good load on there, Dean. I don't like to take too much brush out of one area in case we have fox pups or coyote pups around here dinning in these areas. What we'll do is we'll take this load up to the water hole, work on that blind for a while, and if we need more brush, we'll go into another area and cut another truckload.
John, this is where you want the blind?
Yeah, from the looks of the area around the bank, I think this would be the best location. Most of the antelope here are going to come in off of this high ridge and off of these flats. We've got a very distinctive trail coming in about where that rock is up on the bank here.
Okay.
From the looks of the tracks, if you notice along the pond, we have very few tracks over here. Most of them are down at that end of the pond along the side. We'll also have a lot of antelope coming in off this high ridge and come down off of these trails in here, and we'll have some come up from the bottom. This is the only pond between here and about a 2-mile area up here. As you saw when you came in, we have another pond down here on the road, but all the antelope above are going to be coming into this pond, so the most are going to be coming in from behind us.
Okay.
Another reason for this location here is it's going to give us a little bit of blend in with the sagebrush behind us by the time we get the blind built, so we don't have to dig down as deep, and that's going to help. If we get down too low here, the runoff from any range we get is going to get right into the blind. We'll also have kind of a downhill shot on these antelope as they come into the water hole. Instead of being completely down level with them. That should give us better arrow trajectory going across the pond here and good penetration going down into them instead of just shooting flat. So this should be a good location right here.
All right, you want to lay out some kind of a diagram and we'll start digging a little bit of a
Okay, I think what I'll use,
here.
is, let me have that pick, Skyler. We're going to be working off that side, so we're going to want to come with the side of our blind right off the point here. About out to here. Then we're going to kind of come across kind of a circle around here. And we're not going to have to dig all this out. We're just going to have to dig out part of it. Then we'll come down off the corner here. And mainly where we're going to want to dig down is, I think right along here we're going to have to dig a little bench. And right here in the center, kind of an angle like this. We're going to have to get it where we have one window right here in the center, so we can cover this part of the pond and at the same time cover this over here. In the past years, when this pond has gone down, the water goes from this end down to this side. Usually we have a pool of water just about in the middle here. So if I have my shooting window about, I think we're going to have that shooting window about right in here, right in this area, which means we're going to have that, drop this down and give ourselves a little bench up in here, so we need to drop this right in here, probably about, we'll go down about 1 foot to 16 inches to start with and see what we've got and see how we look there.
All right.
We always have to do that once or twice.
Proper blind building is like anything else, hard work. But the cool air of the desert evening and the Wyoming sunset makes it a real joy. The next morning, John and Dean are joined by John's longtime hunting partner, Dick Larkin. Dick also grew up in Wyoming and has hunted antelope every season since he could buy a license. John got him started on bow hunting, and the two have bow hunted together ever since. With all this help, blind building shifts into high gear. As blinds go, these are pretty fancy. John has developed them over a lifetime of waiting for antelope to come into water holes. The long, hot hours spent waiting for antelope in a blind can take their toll, so John builds these blinds for comfort, and when the time arrives to shoot, he's at his best. First, steel fence posts are driven in to form the frame. This gives strength to counteract the desert wind and an occasional cow that might want to have a scratch. Then woven wire is wrapped around the fence posts and wired on. Burlap sacks are then fastened to the mesh with long pieces of wire. The long ends are then used to wire the pieces of sagebrush that will cover the blind. Again, John has selected a prime watering hole, and some local residents, like this sage grouse, don't seem too concerned with all the building activity. John likes to have a roof on his blind. The burlap can be stretched across from fence post to fence post, or 1x2s can be used as center support. The roof keeps the blind much cooler, and it's more difficult for the antelope to see into the blind and detect movement, especially when the sun is directly overhead. About the time the roof is done, the sagebrush cutting crew should be coming with another load of prime sage. The brush is wired on using the long pieces of wire left from securing the burlap. In addition, other pieces of brush are wired on at strategic points. Then other pieces of brush are placed in and around the wired brush, just like building a bouquet of flowers. John and Dick are very serious archers, and they measure the shooting distance from the blind to various points on the water hole. That way they know how long a shot.
My bow won't shoot that far.
Wooden pegs are driven into the ground to mark the various distances. Both John and Dick will not shoot farther than 35 yards. Even a large buck antelope is a small target. Quality-minded archers put in many hours of practice to ensure the accuracy of their shooting. Dean was amazed. Even with the activity of blind building, some antelope were headed into water at this hole. It adds greatly to the excitement and the anticipation of opening day. It's very important that the shooting holes be cut where the hunter can cover most of the area in front of him. The hunter decides where the hole should be located. Then a hole is cut and the outside brush trimmed away. For hunting, the holes need only be about a foot in diameter. But to accommodate filming during the hunt, John cuts these holes a little bigger. The 2 holes cut in this blind gives John a good front and side view of the water hole in front of him. Now it's time for some practice shots to gauge the distance and get an idea of the effect of the wind on a shot across the pond. You can count on wind in antelope country.
There, that's dead center.
The blind on Chicken Hole is complete. It will sit on the water hole for a couple of weeks, and by that time the antelope will have a chance to get used to it. Now it's back to the water hole John and Dean scouted the day before and planned the strategy and location of that blind.
Dick, we got a lot of big bucks coming into this hole. Dean and I were scouting it out yesterday, and we got some nice antelope coming in here. What do you think about the sizes? Where do you think we ought to place these blinds?
You did a heck of a job of picking a big water hole, John. I think we should put it somewhere in this area right here. We're going to have to probably put something down at the other end, or we're going to have all the goats down there. Hopefully, when we're ready to hunt this, it'll have evaporated a little bit. We're going to have some real long shots on this one.
Yeah, it looks pretty shallow up on this end, and it's working its way down here. I think I agree with you. If we set the one blind on this side, we should have a 35 to 40-yard shot or maximum on this end. Put a false blind down here to kind of move them right across the pond from us. And as this water works down, we should be in pretty good shape.
Haven't you ever noticed that they always tend to like the most foul water and the muddiest part of the pond? I think that might be a good working idea.
You guys just mentioned a false blind to use on one end or the other of this pond. What's a false blind?
Well, false blind is where we just cut a bunch of brush and we stack it up to resemble a blind, but we don't actually hunt in it. We don't have to make it as large. The reason for that is antelope will shy away from it. They won't get within 30, 40 yards, any more than 30 yards of that blind. Because we have so much room across the pond here, if we put a false blind in over there, we're hoping to move the antelope back up this way a good 20 to 30 yards where they're going to be on about half of the pond straight across from us. Because the only thing that can catch them out here is something inside that brush pile.
Tendency would be that they won't come in on our side because we're over here. And if we put a blind down at the opposite end, hopefully we'll push them all down where we want to shoot at. If it doesn't work, we'll be shooting about 70 or 80 yards.
And that's a long shot in this wind.
That's a long shot for us.
And what we have to do, if we do, we just have to wait and catch the antelope that are down here. Now, it may take them 4 or 5 days to get used to the blind. And then they may start watering, and like Dick said, they like that slimy, yucky water. And they may come down here, and they'll be right in front of our blind by the time we hunt. That's why we have to build that blind a couple weeks early to get them used to it.
If not, it just gives us a hell of a lot of good practice on cutting sage.
A lot of good practice. That's a whole
More
thing.
fun.
Right.
Yeah.
So we've got a lot of work to do here, so we better get started on it. Okay?
Okay.
The work is complete on 2 blinds, and it's time for Dean to go back home and start thinking about rifle hunting. He's seen plenty of antelope and has lots of things to think about in planning his strategy for rifle hunting in this big open country. For Dick and John, it's one more blind to build, and then the impatient wait for archery season to open. These water holes are used by wildlife and domestic stock all year round, and it's just as important to take the blind down after hunting as it was to build it. A good rule of thumb is to think about the land as your own and take care of it. An old rotting blind is an eyesore and a mess. Don't forget that after hunting, put the land back the way you found it. Well, it finally arrived, opening day. John and Dick were in the blind well before sunup. They left their truck about a mile away, out of sight of the blind, and walked into the blind in the dark. It's very important to leave a vehicle out of sight, as antelope are suspicious of vehicles, even when they're not moving. John and Dick have an opening day tradition that continues through this season.
John, how many years have we been hunting with each other?
Oh my gosh, must have been about, what, 8 years now? 7, 8 years?
How many opening days have we had where it hasn't rained?
I think one. First year you hunted with us. And it was very dry and dusty, and we found out that sagebrush and dust don't go with contacts very good. We haven't had that problem since.
I think this is one of the situations that you deal with. The rain just absolutely ruins blind hunting.
Yeah, we spend a lot of time trying to find a small, secluded water hole and go to a lot of effort and work building the blind and getting everything located. In the last couple of days, we watched a lot of really nice bucks come into the water hole. This particular one, I sat here yesterday and watched 3 very nice bucks. One of them go high in the Pope and Young, and then we got that little bit of drizzle yesterday before I come out here, and it didn't bother them. But we've got enough rain today.
How warm do you figure it was when we were building these blinds?
Oh, it was probably in the high 80s, low 90s.
What do you figure it is right now?
Oh, probably about 45.
This is middle of August.
But that's just one of those things that happens with antelope hunting, and it's important to remember if a guy is planning on an antelope hunt and you're going to drive a long ways and put a lot of effort into it. Boy, listen to that rain come down. It's really coming down now. But you got to plan on having a good full week out here, because the weather, one thing we've always said about Wyoming, if you don't like the weather, give it 15 minutes and it'll change.
Yep.
So it could turn off nice here again in a couple of days, but right now it's just, luckily we have a good roof overhead, so we're not getting too wet sitting in here.
Right. That's probably also recommended that one bring his 4-wheel drive with him, wouldn't you figure?
Definitely. Because you get a little bit of water on these roads out here.
Mostly clay.
Just clay, and it's just really slimy trying to get around. That makes it difficult. And a person has to have a lot of patience. And on a day like this, if you go out and attempt to stalk the antelope, they bed down when it rains. And they're very difficult to locate. And crawling around in the wet sagebrush and the cactus and the rattlesnakes is not my idea of a good way to spend the day. So I think what we're going to have to do is just give it a little while and wait for it to dry up some and get back in the blind, and those bucks will be back in here in a day or so. Well, Dick, here's the reason we aren't getting any antelope.
Lots of water, isn't it?
Yeah, we had more rain out here last night than what we thought.
Pretty deep, too.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me any. Those goats can water out of here for 2 or 3 days unless we get a good hot wind and that sun pops out and gets this dried up. You know what's strange about antelope? They'll have a water hole right across the road, but it seems like the yuckier and the dirtier water is, the better they like to drink out of it. I don't know if they drink it or eat it sometimes.
Well, don't you figure, John, it has a lot to do with them just feeling safer. They're a real visual animal. If they don't have to go into a water hole, I don't think they would do so.
Well, they can certainly see a lot better here than they can down inside that pond. And the other thing, as long as it's wet like it is, they can get a lot of moisture out of the sagebrush when they're feeding on it.
Yeah, did you notice the sage chickens didn't even come in?
No, we didn't have a thing in there. It's just too wet for anything to be out moving except a couple of crazy bow hunters, I guess.
How long do you figure it's going to take to dry this out?
Well, a lot's going to depend on the wind. We don't have a lot of puddles, and they're not real big, so if that wind comes up and it gets pretty hot today, it'll dry out, but if it stays cloudy like it is now, this may be sitting here for a couple of days.
You notice out there at that other blind down out where they'd been around that mud hole in the middle of the road, there were prints all over the place?
They stayed there until every bit of the water was gone. They just had it just pounded up into mud. Once they get a little water in the road, they stay there till every bit of it's used up.
Boy, it's hard to believe that You know, you got a circumference of maybe what, a foot of water some
Yeah.
places, and they'll just drink it until it's dry.
Yeah, and the other thing, we don't have any cattle in here, so they're not going to be drinking any of it. So the antelope are going to be using all this.
Boy, there isn't one antelope
No,
in this
I
area.
noticed that. We don't have, there's nothing in sight. We normally have 60, 70 head of antelope in this valley at this time of day. They're just not in here. They're out trying to stay dry and get some feed. It's a lot cooler today than it was yesterday.
What do you figure antelope does on a day like this when it rains? Do you think they just they get down in those ravines and in that high sage?
Yeah,
and
I
just
think
bed
so.
down?
They get down out of the wind and try and catch the sun on these south slopes.
Just like you and me, huh?
You betcha. This would probably be a pretty good day to find some of those old bucks down in that heavy brush,
Uh-huh. You can just see them.
because they're still going to be out feeding, but just locating them and being able to get up on them would be the tricky part.
There's some down out in this flat here too. They have a lot of antelope over in there.
Oh, yeah, I see them.
Yeah.
Well, we know where they aren't, and now we know where they are. There wasn't a thing around that blind this morning.
Well, I tell you, John, I can't tell you how nice it is to have a good pair of field binoculars. I picked
You
these
know
up
someone who
last year.
has some?
Yeah, these are a pair I picked up last year, and it's made a 100% difference as
Let me
far
see
as
those
being able to spot nice antelope. There's ices, they're 10 by 40s, and I can actually see things now.
Yeah, those are nice.
If you turn them around and hold them the other way, it's even better.
My God, those antelope are a long ways out there. I don't think I can hit one that far.
What kind of new toys do you have?
Well, I got a couple things this last year. It should really, really make my shooting improve a lot here over 10 yards. Got a release. That one last year kept slipping off the string.
Mm-hmm.
This one is a new model they've come out. You can activate it with your little finger or your thumb, but what I like is the way it clips on, there's no way for the string to slip off, which is imperative when you're hunting. It's got a double cocking mechanism. You cock it once with your thumb here, and
Does this mean that I won't have to shoot your antelope anymore?
boy, I sure hope so.
Yeah.
I hope I can hit them out there. You know, if we can get them in within 10, 15 yards, we should have no problem. I had them
Throw
in that
rocks
close
at 'em?
yesterday. Yeah,
Yeah.
that or use my knife.
Uh-huh.
But with the release, and then are you still using that same broadhead from last year?
Yeah, I'm using brutes. I'm going to use brutes on the antelope, and I'm going to go to another broadhead for elk this year. What are you
Yeah.
using?
Well, I got a new one this year that I like real well. I use those brutes for a long time. I've got a new one called a Muzzy.
Mm-hmm.
What I really like about this is the brutes, and some of them have a small carbide tip on them. This
Break
Muzzy,
bone?
yeah, this Muzzy's got a real heavy carbide tip. It's a 135 grain broadhead, and the blades are replaceable on it. But with this carbide, I think it'll go through that shoulder bone
What kind of
pretty
shaft
good.
are you using there, John?
Well, I've got
Those are real pretty.
yeah, I got an Easton aluminum here with a plastic fletch. These are a new one to come out with. We're shooting a 2117,
Mm-hmm.
but
How long is your shaft?
I've got 29-inch shafts. They work out pretty good for me that way.
You're a little shorter draw than I am.
Yeah, I'm carrying all total here about 600 grains, and you're probably carrying about 650 grains on yours.
More.
The other thing I got comes in handy in this wet weather is these plastic fletching, and with these fluorescent nocks, you know, as we've seen before hunting antelope, it's real important to know where you hit that antelope when you're going to
Sure.
be.
What do you think of
following
these new camouflage arrows?
Well, you know, a lot of times I worried about losing the arrows, but I found out that I can lose a bright orange one just as easy as I can a dull camouflage one. I think these cut down on the glare some, and it works out pretty good.
Sure.
So I like that part.
You still using that same old bow?
Yeah, we both got that laser too, that PSE laser too.
Mhm.
I've had this for several years. It's taken I don't know how many antelope and deer and elk.
What do you have it set to?
I've got her set on about 66 pounds this year.
Is that
Which-
because you're getting weaker in your old age?
Getting
or,
older. Yeah, getting older and
yeah, I
weaker.
noticed that the gray's
Yeah.
showing up a little bit here.
Had it sitting on 70, 75 for a long time, but I've cranked her down some now.
Sure, all your strength's going to your stomach here?
I think so. Gravity's finally getting to it.
John, I noticed that you're using fine line sights again this year.
Yeah, I got old Killer fixed up here with. This is a trained killing machine, you know.
I noticed how much it killed last year without those sights.
You notice that, huh? Yeah, I did go back to the sites. That one 5-point bull that you finally managed to bugle in.
Killer became Bambi last year.
Yeah, Killer became Bambi, but I did go back to the fine line. I've got it sighted in for 10, 20.
5, 10, and 15.
No, I got it at 20, 30, and 40 yards. That's about all the farther it'll shoot.
Uh-huh.
But with that fine line, and I got the burger button and the flipper rest on here, something that I found really important hunting the antelope out of the blind is having the felt padding on the bow to keep that arrow from clicking against it.
Yeah, so they won't jump it?
Yeah, boy, if they hear just the slightest sound, they're gone away from that water hole. So it makes a lot of difference. And also having that string signature on there where it keeps that twang down on the bow. But had this old bow for a lot of years. It killed a lot of game for me. Some years it doesn't do too good when I get real excited and take off my sights just because my release is not working good.
Sure.
But it's been doing pretty good here lately. So I think it'll get us an antelope this year, and I look forward to getting an elk and a deer with it also.
Noticed you, did you camo that yourself?
Yeah, it came in from the factory. That's one thing about back when I bought this bow, the factory bows were real pretty, but they're also real shiny.
Mm-hmm.
So I, take some flat brown and green and usually some black and spray on it. And I used to put a real fancy pattern on it. Well, I found out that the antelope aren't real particular about the pattern, but they are particular if they see anything shiny. So I try and have the bow, when we're looking at it, where there's nothing reflecting in case that sunshine is coming inside the blind, and it makes a lot of difference that way.
John, do you, now I noticed you got a quickie quiver here. You put your quiver on when you're shooting in a blind?
Not
or do you just
inside
leave
the
it on?
blind. I take it off, and various reasons for that. The nice thing about this, it comes on and off, but when you're inside the blind, if you're not careful when you shoot, you can catch those arrows on the bank or, catch them on the brush or whatever.
It makes noise, too.
Yeah. So I usually pop it off and leave it propped up inside the blind, just have my arrows out ready to go.
Now, what do you prefer? Do you prefer feathers or vanes?
Depends on how hard it's raining.
Yeah.
I'm
the same way.
Yeah, I personally prefer the feathers. I think they're more forgiving if I get a bad release, or if I get a gust of wind, they seem to straighten out a little better. But obviously when it's wet like it...
You mean one of those 100-yard loop shots
wet,
that you're famous for?
Yeah, well, I haven't done any of those for a while. But when it gets real wet and it rains on you all day long and it's dripping inside the blind and your feathers get wet and looks like a drowned rat that you're trying to shoot with. So it makes a lot of difference. But I carry both. I carry vanes and I carry feathers. Just whatever seems to work the best.
You ever tried a string tracker?
Well, several years ago, I had on one of the small string trackers on here, and I shot a buck antelope, just messing around with it. I wanted to see if that string tracker would work on an antelope out of a blind, and I shot one. He's about 25 yards from me, and it did work. I've used them, when I'm elk hunting sometimes, but normally I get too impatient, and about the time I have it strung out all over in the woods, I get tired of messing with it, and I put it up. But they do work out sometimes. I think they work best hunting whitetail and bear and stuff like that out of a tree stand.
That brings up a good point about scent, though. Now, do you put any scent on when you're antelope hunting?
No. I've found over the years, Dick, that other than you, they very seldom can smell any of us. Depends on what you've been doing 2 or 3 days prior to that.
Mm-hmm.
But the antelope go mostly by sight, and they don't go too much by scent. But boy, you let them hear a little bit of sound or see something move inside the blind, and they're gone right now. But I use them mainly to keep the sound down, and they also make good wind indicators if I'm out stalking an antelope. You can kind of tell which direction the wind is going.
I always tie a little string on mine.
Yeah, I've seen you do that in the past. That works out pretty good. But I keep this little string on the bottom here. When I put my release on, keeps them sliding down the string. Keeps it in place when I'm inside the blind. So I normally have an arrow on the bow and have my release locked on and have it all ready to go. So when that antelope steps in, you never know he's going to be there. And I've been noticing this year that they stay at that water hole between 30 and 45 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
They get a couple gulps of water and they're gone again until the next day. So you've really got to be ready for them right now. And all you have to do is take your mind off of it for a minute. Well, I'll tell you what do you say we go do a little driving around and some scouting and see what we can come up with? And it's starting to dry out a little bit, but boy, it's sure socking in around here. We got some blue sky over in the north. See if we can't find
August
something
in
to
Wyoming.
chase. Yeah, if you don't like it,
degrees.
give it a few minutes and the weather will change.
It took 3 days for the weather to change and the country to dry out, but once again the water hole was the gathering point for the antelope. It was good to be back in the blind, watching the sunrise over the Wyoming plains.
John, we've got 4 bachelor bucks coming in, and one of them's a little bit larger than the others, but they're not real big. What do you think? We think we should wait?
Well, he looks like he's got a prong up about his ears, but there's no curl to him. And since it is a bachelor, I think we can get some bigger ones. I think John Bailey would probably be satisfied with him, but we should go for something a little bigger.
He measures probably, if we took him, he'd probably measure out about, say 11 inches. Now, in this country around here, we should have some decent 13 and 14 inchers at least. Looks like a pretty good buck, John.
He's decent, Dick. I think he'll score pretty good. He's pretty heavy.
John, there was no way that I could get a clear shot of that antelope. There were so many antelope in here at once that we wouldn't have been able to get a shot without running the risk of hitting something else.
Yeah, I've been in the same position a few years ago at this water hole. When you get that many antelope, we had over 30 antelope at one time. You gotta be careful. If you miss that buck, you're gonna get a doe or fawn. We certainly don't want that. So that's part of antelope hunting. You watch the big ones come in, and sometimes they walk out. But what's exciting is you can see them that close, you know. And we had someone waiting right out in the pond. You know, that's worth the whole hunt right there, seeing them do that. We must have 25, 30 antelope out there at one time.
Right, I think you're right.
We've got another one walking around out there. I can just see the tips of his horns. I think he's gonna come in. He looks like a pretty good one, too.
John. That was a bad shot.
The antelope couldn't figure what exactly happened. They ran about 50 yards away and started to mill around. Then they cautiously worked their way back to the water hole.
Look at all the antelope. There must be 30 antelope coming in.
There should be at least one big buck with him. Stay in there.
There's a decent one coming in. Okay.
It looks so easy, just a 30-yard shot. Well, there's tomorrow, and tomorrow it's John's turn. This day, the first animals into the waterhole were the sage grouse, oftentimes called prairie chickens, and the birds for which Chicken Hole got its name. This grouse can't seem to find a suitable place to drink. Well, antelope tracks and mud make good grouse watering holes.
Dick, this is our second day in the blind. We got a couple good shots yesterday, but didn't connect with any of those big bucks. Hopefully we'll get some more of those in today. We got some different conditions today. We got a little bit more wind. Yesterday they were really spooky because it was so quiet. Today they're a little bit spooky because it's windy. It doesn't take much to spook an antelope, and they're hard to make up their mind sometimes. It looks like we should have a pretty good day coming up here. We've had some chickens come in, and a few goats have showed up, but it's not real warm yet, and they haven't decided to water quite yet, but I think they'll be in after a while.
John, I'm picking up on that windy idea. Do you think these goats are spooky because of the wind, or do you think there might be somebody out there driving around? You know, you got a lot of problems that you encounter when you're blind hunting. Sometimes you get rain. Sometimes you can have somebody out there driving around in their vehicle. You don't have a slightest idea of what's happening because you can't see anything inside the blind. We've sat around blinds for a whole day and never seen anything. I hope we get some decent shots today on some good bucks.
Which one?
How badly did you miss it? No more than 2 inches. 2 inches. And what were you holding at? 30. So what do you figure down at the water? Maybe 20, 25.
You know, when those bucks came in, that big one stayed in the background for a while, and that good would come down to the water hole. About the time I went to pull him, a doe waited right out in the middle of the water and stood right in front of him. Once she moved, a fawn came in behind him. Then that big one came down, and he was right behind him. When I pulled on that big one, and I shot, it looked like it went just barely over his back.
You held for a long time, John.
I know it.
I noticed you changed from buck to buck.
Well, they're both big bucks, and I was trying to get the best position.
It took those antelope a long time to come in. They started, about an hour and a half ago over here on this side. They went completely around this water hole. They went up here and then came back around.
Well, they're slow today, they're spooky.
Yeah, well, it's always the way it is the second or third day.
Pretty decent buck.
Hey, good shot.
Yeah, Dick, sorry. Good shot.
Keep running.
He's down.
Oh. He's down right
He's
over
down.
Congratulations. Good shot.
I took him right in the lungs. He's right at 29 yards, 29 to 30. And he only made it about maybe 35, 40 yards from the pond.
Yeah, I saw him go down over
Where
there.
he dropped. He took him down pretty fast. Got some nice bucks in this other bunch over here too, checking us out. But that's how it goes sometimes. It's feast or famine. I was surprised though that buck came in by himself. You know, as squirrely as they've been, normally they wait for a doe to come in. But he come right into it, and I had he was head almost right on me. And I got just a quarter-inch shot going into him. But as soon as he put his mouth down to drink, why, I held a little bit lower this time than I did last time.
That's very unusual. He came in by himself.
Yeah, the bucks don't come in by themselves very often.
How big a buck was he?
I'd say he's 13 maybe. He's not as big as what we shot at this morning. But his prongs are above his ears, and he's pretty heavy on the base. So he's a respectable buck. He'll score. He'll score pretty good.
What do you think we should do about these others? Do you think we should sit tight?
Yeah, I think we should. I think we should give them, since they're in the area, I think we should give them a few minutes. Because he went down on the north side of the blind, and any goats that come in on the south side of the blind, they may come right on in where you can get a shot at them. But that was all right.
Good shot.
Pretty good. When I shot, and I'll bet you when that comes back, it's going to show that he turned away from the pond before that arrow got there.
So it zapped him just right?
It zapped him and went right up under the front shoulder. Because I was trying to go in about that third rib back and go through the lungs and back in through the femoral artery.
You know what's nice to see about that kind of thing? You know, the rifle hunters are always concerned about the bow hunters not getting a good shot on an animal. He's down and dead just as fast as any rifle kill.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
He went down real quick. So.
Excellent. That's the way the game should be played.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
With any luck. Boy, it'd be interesting to figure out how to do this, whether we just send you out, have you go over and get the truck, and then quickly come over, throw him in the back of the truck, and get him out of the area. And we stay here, and hopefully, within another hour or two, we might have bucks back in here.
Well, I think the way the position where he went down, any antelope that we have that comes in from the ridge over to the south of us will come into the pond. The problem we may have is it looked like he lost quite a bit of blood. We may have to go out and do our thing with him, get him taken care of, and kick dirt over that blood to get that scent. Because there's been times in the past when we've shot an antelope, and if they can circle around and they can pick up that blood, and you smell it all, they won't come to the waterhole at all. So we may have to, we'll give them a little while, but we may have to just completely clean up the area.
John, we don't want to dress this animal right
Not
here.
here, you betcha, that's right.
We're gonna get the truck,
Yeah.
throw him in the back of the truck, and we're gonna easily take him away at least a mile.
At least.
Yeah. It's just bad news to dress an animal that close, and it isn't going to cause any spoilage or anything like that.
You know, looking back at this broadhead I was talking about, we were using this muzzy. I would be willing to bet that from what it looked, as quick as he dropped, that went right through the ribs. Oh my, right there at the water hole, Dick. Just put the finger tap on and go for it.
That other pair of binoculars.
There were some bucks in there that we did not see. There were some bucks in there. There were 16-inch bucks in there.
Yeah.
Your arrow is completely bright red. See it laying on the
Just
bank.
a second here.
I think you cut his jugular vein. See your arrow laying right here. It's just bright red. Right down by the pond bank. Look at that blood.
Oh, yeah.
You cut his jugular vein. There's no doubt in my mind.
That wasn't where you shot yours, was it?
No. I shot mine over here.
There's definitely blood there. I can see it.
When I looked around the corner, That one was going up there, and the blood was just gushing out of the left side of his neck.
There's definitely blood right there. You can see it.
Now, here's the other thing. We've been out here 4 or 5 different times. There were some bucks in there that we have not seen before. I'm talking, there was a couple bucks here that go 16 inches easily. What was it, a bachelor herd of?
Yeah, they were all bachelors.
Boy, there were some big bucks in there.
I wasn't even paying attention where they came from.
Yeah. Well,
were those the ones that were coming in?
Yeah,
that I saw?
They were over on the other side of the bank. And all of a sudden we could hear them walking down the pond. Now let's look at something. We have a dead antelope that's laying not 60 yards maximum from where those bucks just walked in. Now, the only thing that could have happened is they come in, the wind is blowing from them to that other goat.
Mm-hmm.
They could not smell the blood. And they didn't even hesitate. They walked into the pond.
Well, don't you figure there's a big thirst there?
There's got to be. There's
Yeah.
got to be.
This is very, very, very unusual to have that many antelope come in right after you've shot a major buck, and particularly with those all being bucks.
I didn't get to see the buck you shot very good. Was he as big as the rest of those bucks standing out there?
I haven't got the slightest idea.
Dick, I
literally
fainted.
all I did, John.
All is out through his
I'm
horns.
I'm creeping like an Indian to get my stupid hair. I'm popping up and looking at bucks and going, my God.
And what was
I
nice.
wasn't even looking at it.
Yeah, but your bow was perfectly still. You took your time. You had a smooth release. And I'd be willing to bet you took it.
Standing right there. Oh, man. That is rich red blood. My God. Dick, this is fantastic, buddy. We got 2 bucks here. We got a good blood trail. We've already located mine. We've located yours. This just doesn't happen when you're antelope hunting.
No, it doesn't.
Not 2 trophy bucks at one time like this. What do you say we go check them out?
Let's do it.
All right.
Oh man, is that a buck or is that a buck? Whoa. Not bad. About 14. John, come on over here and take a look at this buck. He's super.
Oh, wow. That is a dandy, Dick. Oh, man, that's super.
That's what you have in Wyoming.
Oh, congratulations, Dick.
Thank you.
Good shot. Good, clean, quick kill.
Boy, you know, there were bigger bucks in that group.
Yes, there was. To think there was bigger bucks in that group, you're talking 14 inches here.
Yeah.
Look at the curl on him. Let's see how big this guy will measure out, Dick.
Okay.
Let's start holding him right here on the base of the skull. Got him?
Yep.
Okay, now we need to come up. Let's move it just a little bit right up the side here,
Okay.
so we can get a straight line. Whoops. 13 and a half.
Not bad.
That is a nice buck. Let's check our circumference here. Okay, at the base. 6 inches at the base. Right below the prong. We have to go above or below the prong. 5.5 inches just below the prong. See what we got for prongs here. Come up the center, split him off. We're looking at about 3 3/4 inch prongs. Let's look for evenness on this other one here. Let's see what we got for length. Right
at 13 and a half.
13 and a half inches again. Let's check our base. 6 inches right on. 5.5. Dick, he's just about perfect.
Yeah.
He's going to score well in the book.
Yeah, he will score well. You know, another year and this would have been a big, big buck.
We're talking 16 inches in another year.
Yeah.
And he had big brothers with him.
Yeah, we were looking, and there were some bigger bucks in that. There really were.
Oh, man. That's a nice buck,
Sure
but you haven't seen mine yet, Guy.
Well, let's go over and take a look at
You
his.
better come over and check him out.
Who knows? We might have something over there that
has big muscles.
Let's check him out and see how big he measures here, Dick. Get some preliminary measures on him, check him for length and circumference and see what we've got. Boy, he's sure a pretty buck.
Yeah, real symmetrical.
Okay, let's see. We got a curl here, so we're going to have to come up off this back side.
Got it?
Yeah.
12, John.
12 inches. Okay, got a little bit of ivory there. Let's check his base, see what we got. 6 inches on the base. Five and a half. Suppose these guys were brothers?
Could have been.
Maybe the one you got's,
You know, that's a keeper.
Well, Dick, we've got these two big guys together. We did a good morning's work here. You know, just taking a rough look at him here and what we did on some taping earlier with that steel tape, with your buck is definitely a good inch longer than mine. Mine's a little heavier down through this area, a little heavier right on top here. I've got about, an inch and a half inch ivory on mine. You got about a 1/4 inch or so on yours. I'd say just a rough score, you're looking at about 68 to 70 on yours, and I'm looking at about 66 to 68 on mine. Well, what do you say we go get these loaded up and haul them out of this area and get them cleaned up and get them in, get them processed, and we'll have some good eating here.
You bet. This was a good hunt.
This year's antelope hunt was over, and it was one to remember. If you've thought about hunting antelope with a bow and arrow, try blind hunting on a desert water hole. You'll see things you've never seen before, and it too will be a memorable hunting experience.